Hi, this is Boris. Welcome to another episode of Artist Podcast. I'm a cartoonist, podcaster, YouTuber. I publish every Monday a webcomic called Stand Up Comics. You can read it for free on Webtoon. And if you can, just subscribe and give it a like, give it a heart, because it might help me. I appreciate it. Today we're going to talk about mindfulness, compassion, Eddie Murphy and his movie 1,000 Words. Before we dive into the details and analysis of the movie, please keep in mind that I'm not going to spoil in detail the story, but you will be influenced by my views. So if you haven't watched the movie, please do so. It's on Netflix. And if you don't care, it's okay. You can just listen to my analysis. The main reason I watched the movie is because I was searching to see if Liar Liar was on Netflix. And by the way, for those who don't know, for those who are listening for this podcast for the first time, I live in Bangkok. So the movies that I have here on Netflix is different from other countries. So like I said, the main reason I watched the movie is because I was searching to see if Liar Liar was on Netflix, and I saw this movie popping up, and I honestly watched it for Eddie Murphy. So part one, why isn't Eddie Murphy working anymore? Eddie Murphy might be the seed that planted my interest in stand-up comedy. As a matter of fact, the first DVD I bought of a stand-up special was Raw. Of course, we loved him in Coming to America, The Nutty Professor, where Dave Chappelle's cameo is priceless, Dr. Dolittle, and Shrek, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, was his biggest success before we stopped hearing from him. There are a lot of reasons, that he's not working or he's not involved in projects. One of the reasons he mentioned in his appearance on Ellen DeGeneres was that he wants to make a good movie. After a lineup of bad movies like Norbit, I haven't seen the film, but it is mentioned as one of the reasons for his downfall. Also, he might well be happy not doing movies and has maybe become understandably picky about his projects, considering what he has done in the past. I thought, and this is just a rumor I think I've heard in one of the podcasts, that I think Hollywood gives actors or filmmakers or people in Hollywood, gives them 3 chances. If you don't make money with these movies, you're out. But I'm happy to hear that they are going ahead in production on Coming to America 2. Part 2, 1,000 Words. What started out as a movie I wanted to watch before sleeping, because I missed Eddie Murphy, turned out to be an interesting movie about mindfulness and compassion, in a way. 1,000 Words is a 2012 movie directed by Brian Robbins. When I look at his filmography, he has done 2 other movies with Eddie Murphy, Meet Dave and Norbit. I haven't seen any of those movies. The movie stars Eddie Murphy, Kerry Washington, Clark Duke, and Cliff Curtis as Dr. Sinja. Ruby Dee plays Eddie's mother. I know she's a classically trained actress. She's a very famous actress, but I've seen her only, I know her from her memorable performance in American Gangster, one of my favorite Ridley Scott movies, which doesn't get mentioned a lot. Anyway, that's for another podcast. The movie was a flop in the US, so they decided to release direct to DVD in other countries, and there are a lot of reasons for that, but I'm here to tell you why this movie is worth watching. Let's look at the synopsis. After stretching the truth on a deal with spiritual guru, literary agent Jack McCall finds a Bodhi tree on his property. Its appearance holds a valuable lesson on the consequences of every word he uses. Basically, each time he uses a word, the tree loses a leaf. He has to figure out what he has to do before all the leaves fall down, because if they do, he'll die. For your information, Bodhi tree is believed to be the tree under which Gautama Buddha attained enlightenment. It is worshipped by Buddhists. Part 4. My reaction to the movie. The formula is not new. A self-absorbed, arrogant person goes through an unlikely situation and learns something that makes his life better for him and those around him. So that's not new. Eddie Murphy is wonderful to watch, but Clark Duke, he's also in Kick-Ass, by the way, steals the show by the end of the movie. I saw a lot of criticism. I mean, of course, like this movie, like I said, was a flop. But some criticisms were not really great. Like, for example, the scene where he uses action. There's a scene where he uses action figures to answer to a teleconference call. Sorry. The scene was described as not believable because you can't have everybody who. You can't, like, all the employees in an office cannot have a action figurine and. But they forgot that they are watching a movie where a guy is connected to a tree. So I don't know. I thought that scene was fun. Even if at times when the exposition feels like the exposition is thrown at you, I felt it was for good reason, because I mean, most of the movie I was looking for an explanation. I read online that some people found the plot too predictable. To be honest, I found it as predictable as saying the main character will learn something, which is what happens in most movies, right? It follows the movie trope of these kind of movies, where the main character is wealthy so as to take the financial struggle out of the equation. But I watched till the end and I wasn't bored at all. Part 5. My take on the movie. So I just picked up some very important quotes from the movie, which I think just connected me. I mean, again, I will just talk about. I don't think it's coincidence. I think it's just that when you are like, I'm genuinely interested in mindfulness, definitely compassion, because I feel like we need more people. Compassionate people, and not compassion not only to others but also to yourself. Like, I think so I'm reading. This is the only thing I'm doing for the moment. I mean, I'm reading books. I'm trying to meditate every day, at least 10 minutes or 5 minutes, and it's interesting. I mean, this podcast will be one of the podcast where I record actually my, let's call it my journey into mindfulness. So let's go into like the quotes, which okay, there's a really loud motorbike outside. So here's the quote: "Words are just like leaves that blow off a tree. How do you show your love?" Right. So this question is asked by Dr. Sinja when character Eddie Murphy's character is desperate at the end and he doesn't know what to do, so he goes to Dr. Sinja, very sick, very angry, and he tells him this, right? And coincidentally, when I was searching for one of my next videos, because February I made a video about love and I wanted to make another one, because since everybody has agreed that February is somehow the month of love, right? Because Valentine's Day was this month. I found a Time article that argued that love should not be viewed as a feeling, but rather an enacted emotion, as in something expressed in action. So that was interesting, like seeing that idea sort of represented in the movie, because defining love or what to do, how to express your love, these are really big questions that you can't really have a model for it. You can't conceptualize it. You can't rationalize it. But you can live by example. Like, you can live the way you want to love. And when you see that that person has different idea, you can have a discussion. And I mean, it's always like, and this movie is about listening. So I think that's a really good lesson, I think, for people to take, which is to listen. And there is another thing which Dr. Sinja again says. So he's the character. He's a spiritual guru, played by Cliff Curtis. There are three things that cannot be hidden, cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. This is really like a call to confront the truth about the world and about yourself, right? Because a lot of times we are just looking for distractions to go get away from the truth. But actually, it might be really painful to deal with the truth. But that's what every story is. Like, there's a reason why we love these stories, right? So, and I'm just throwing at you like a lot of the themes that are dealt in this movie, like this self-compassion. There's a moment when he realizes that all his methods don't work, so he has to show compassion to the tree, which means show compassion to himself, right? So he talks inside his mind, so he's basically talking to himself. And there is this sentence also, like, when, and this is not really clear, but at the end he has a flashback and he sees a kid, and for me that kid is himself, but it might be his father, but I don't know. And that kid says, I guess you never know if the last time you see someone is going to be the last time you ever see someone. So for this, actually, I wanted you to listen to an extract from a podcast. It's not a Buddhist podcast, but I love Tom Segura and Christina P. They have a podcast called Your Mom's House. I just watch it because I love their comedy. I mean, I like dick and fart jokes too. So, and they had Pete Holmes and Neil Brennan as guests, and Pete Holmes talked about enlightenment and happiness. So I just want you to listen to this because I think it encapsulates perfectly what I was going to say. And instead of just rephrasing what he said, I'll just rather like insert the extract here. So listen to this. I'll come back afterwards.
There's something that I practice, which is you're trying to be, enlightenment to me means happy for no reason. And there, in my experience, every story is a guy sitting on a box. Every spiritual story is a guy sitting on a box and he's begging for change. And finally one guy goes, hey, what's in the box? He goes, I never looked in the box. He's like, you should look in the box. Guy walks away. Beggar looks in the box, it's filled with gold, right? That's every story. You go on a journey looking for a diamond only to realize it was sewn into the lining of your jacket the whole time. This is every movie.
Right.
This is the human story. Yeah. So why do we love that story, and why does that story keep being told? It's because, and I'm 39 years old, it's finally starting to sink in that there is something to enjoy just in the moment, just in the phenomenon of being conscious. And you can call that conscious a piece of God or whatever you want to say. It doesn't matter what symbol system you use. But when you go, just this, just right now, is a fucking trip. And even the suffering is fucking wild.
Yeah, it's a miracle. You shouldn't even be here.
And there's a way to intellectualize that's exhausting, where I go like, wow, coffee's a fucking miracle. That's exhausting. That's head stuff. It's about being in a heart place where you're just not thinking, where you're letting it shut off, and you're just going like I was in the shower. Here's a simple one. I was in the shower this morning. You go, this could be your last shower. We don't know. I could fucking die. And that sounds morbid, but there's something when you go, this could be my last shower, you feel the water on your skin.
Yeah.
And you smell the soap. And there's something, and you see the sun coming through the window and the speck of dust that's caught in it and how it looks like our universe. And that's not thinking. that looks like our universe. That's feeling it.
Yeah.
That's true happiness. It's not to say better or worse. It's just, to me, happy for no reason is a better way.
So when, so that was the part of the podcast. And in the movie, to come back to the movie, 1,000 Words, the last 3 words he uses, this is clearly a spoiler. So the last 3 words he uses is, I forgive you. He looks at his father's grave and he says, I forgive you. When he forgives his father, it's like he forgives himself. Again, the movie is an interesting movie about kindness and compassion. He starts listening to people he sees every day. He doesn't only listen to their words, but also their needs, right? And I've talked about this before. When you hate someone, you hate the part of that person that thinks about that person. I mean, let me rephrase that. When you hate someone, you hate the part of yourself that thinks about that person. I think I gave the example of my mom once told me a short story when she didn't say it for the sake of, we were not having a discussion about mindfulness. She just said this because she was shocked by the story. But anyway, she was waiting in the tuk-tuk. In India, we also call it the auto rickshaw, those 3-wheeled vehicles. The driver of the auto rickshaw is like he just made a sound of disgust, right, and or something. So my mother asked him oh, what happened? Are you okay? She thought he was sick or something. But then he said he pointed to a woman and he said look at the way she's dressed, right? I don't know what exactly she was wearing, but they said she was wearing something very revealing, right? And to be honest, it depends on the country, what the standard is, what the standard of what people define as revealing or too revealing. But anyway, it doesn't really matter what she was wearing, actually. But it was interesting to see, I just came up, I was just theorizing this, saying that for me, I don't think he was directly disgusted by that woman. That woman is not disgusting. She's probably not a nice woman. We don't know anything about her. We don't know about her intentions for wearing that. But when he saw her in that revealing clothes, I'm sure there was something which was attractive for him, right? But the thing is, once he felt that attraction or that desire or that sexual attraction or sexual desire towards that woman, I think his other part jumped in and said, you are disgusting for being attracted to this woman because we have been fed images of, the girls who wear revealing dresses are whores, or they're really bad girls, they're from bad family, and so on, whatever you want. So it's not, what he felt was not the truth. What he felt was a reaction of very human, very primal desire that he felt, right? So that's what that's what I meant when I said, when you hate someone, you hate the part of yourself that thinks about that person. I don't know, I think I don't have any proof of this, but I think there is a sense, this is why I'm also interested in compassion, because I just feel like people don't stop to think about how they feel. I'm sure you feel a lot of things in a day, but just stop for a moment and think about them. Why do I feel like this? Try to understand your mind. And that's one of the things that you need to do to become mindful. Anyway, So I finished reading Mindful Compassion, which is a book by Paul Gilbert and Choden. Paul Gilbert is a professor of clinical psychology, and Choden is a former Buddhist monk who teaches mindfulness and compassion programs internationally. Initially I wanted to read the conclusion of the book on this podcast, but I thought I'd rather talk to you about the connections between the lessons of the book and the media I'm consuming as we go along. So this was just a part of like scratching the surface of an example of a movie that I discovered totally by accident, which happens to like have like a connection with the lessons from the book. By the way, speaking of media in general, a meta comment on movies. I have said that I love movies not only because they're entertaining, but they also represent case studies in human condition. Now, after reading the book, which invites you to become compassionate towards your inner selves, and it's very important, I'm saying selves, not because they talk about different selves within ourselves, and the external world, right? So again, after reading the book, which invites you to become compassionate towards your inner selves and the external world, I think movies as art, I mean, like other art forms like comic books, music, help you be, in a way, be on the path to compassion towards other people, other personalities different from us, different from you. Because they make us feel like the characters when done right with honest creativity, right? Like I think that's what stories are for. Like it's not, of course you can always see them as entertaining and distractions, but I see them and I feel the need to talk about them and share my ideas about them because they are deeper than that. Like they help me travel in other people's minds, to put it simply. So yeah, so that was my podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. So please check out the other stuff I do. I always put them in the comment section below. Again, this is Boris, cartoonist, podcaster, YouTuber. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. And until next time, this is Boris, Movie Messenger. And this was the Art Is Podcast.